What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing something absolutely insane. We're going to count down the top 10 weakest armies in the entire world. I know it sounds crazy, right? We always talk about the strongest, the biggest, the most powerful. But have you ever wondered who's at the other end of the list? We've spent weeks digging through all the data, looking at budgets, active personnel, and even who protects these countries, and the results are going to blow your mind. Now before we jump into this crazy list, I want to make one thing super clear. This video is all about exploring which countries have the least military power, and more importantly, why that is. Some of these countries have incredible histories and unique reasons for not having a massive army. Kicking off our countdown at number 10, we have the island nation of Tuvalu. This place is literally paradise on Earth, located in the Pacific Ocean, but when it comes to military strength, it's a completely different story. With a population of just around 11,000 people, that's smaller than most small towns, they simply don't have the numbers to field a traditional army. Imagine trying to recruit soldiers when your entire country could fit inside a single football stadium. Their defense situation is super interesting. Tuvalu doesn't have a standing army at all. Not a single tank, not a fighter jet, nothing. Their entire security force consists of the Tuvalu police force, which includes a maritime surveillance unit. Coming in at number 9 is a country you've all heard of but probably never thought about in this way, Vatican City. This is the smallest sovereign state in the world, both in area and population. So who protects the Pope? This is where it gets legendary. Yes, those guys in the incredibly colorful Renaissance-era uniforms. While they might look ceremonial, they are an elite force of highly trained soldiers from Switzerland. For everything else, Vatican City relies entirely on Italy. Since Vatican City is an enclave within Rome, Italy's armed forces provide the national defense. Vatican City proves that you don't need tanks and fighter jets to be a globally significant power. Alright, at number 8, we're heading back to Italy sort of. We're talking about San Marino, another microstate completely surrounded by Italy. Their approach to defense is deeply rooted in their long history, and is almost entirely ceremonial, and has units like the Crossbow Corps, which is now purely for show, and the Guard of the Rock, which is responsible for patrolling borders and protecting government buildings. And most of them are part-time volunteers who serve alongside their regular civilian jobs. They have a friendship and cooperation treaty with Italy. This means that in the unlikely event of an invasion, the Italian armed forces would be responsible for defending San Marino's sovereignty. They get to keep their cool, historic uniforms and traditions while Italy handles the serious stuff. Alright, moving on to number 7 on our countdown, we have the beautiful alpine country of Liechtenstein. Sandwiched between Switzerland and Austria, this is another one of Europe's tiny microstates, famous for its castles, stunning landscapes, and for being honestly incredibly wealthy. But here's a wild fact for you, Liechtenstein made a decision that most countries would find unthinkable. In 1868 they completely abolished their army. They literally just said we don't need this anymore and sent everyone home. While there's no formal defense treaty, Liechtenstein has an incredibly close relationship with Switzerland. They share a customs union, and the Swiss franc is their official currency. It's an informal guarantee that has allowed Liechtenstein to prosper for over 150 years without a single soldier. Cracking the top 6, we're heading to the French Riviera, to the playground of the rich and famous Monaco. With a population of around 39,000 people packed into less than a square mile, there's the Compagnie des Carabiniers du Prince, who are responsible for the prince's protection and guarding the palace. Then there's the Corps des Sapeurs-Pompiers, which is both the National Fire Brigade and a civil defense unit. Their duties are for state security and ceremonial functions, not for fighting a war. Monaco's sovereignty and defense are explicitly guaranteed by France through a series of treaties. States that France will defend Monaco's independence and sovereignty as if it were French territory. It's a fascinating geopolitical setup that ensures this tiny, glamorous nation remains safe and secure on the world stage. We are now in the top 5, and for number 5, we're going back to the Pacific, to the island nation of Nauru. Once incredibly wealthy from phosphate mining, the country has faced economic challenges in recent decades. With a small population of just over 12,000 people, Nauru has never had a standing army. Their focus has always been on internal policing and relying on international partners for defense. Their primary defense partner is Australia. While there isn't a formal binding defense treaty, there's a long-standing informal agreement. It's a practical solution born out of necessity and geography. Alright, at number 4, we have another beautiful island nation in the Pacific, Palau. This country is actually an archipelago of over 500 islands, and is world-renowned for its incredible marine biodiversity and diving spots, like the famous Jellyfish Lake. With a population of about 18,000 people, Palau, just like its Pacific neighbors, doesn't have a military. In fact, their constitution literally forbids it. But here's where things get really interesting. Palau's national defense is formally guaranteed by one of the biggest military powers on Earth, the United States. This is all spelled out in something called the Compact of Free Association, or COFA. Under this agreement, the United States has full authority and responsibility for Palau's defense. We've reached the top 3, guys, and at number 3 we're heading to the Caribbean, to the twin island nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. This is actually the smallest sovereign state in the Western Hemisphere, both in area and population. It's known for its beautiful beaches, cloud-shrouded mountains, and historic sugar plantations, making it a really popular tourist destination. The nation does have the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force, but it's honestly a very small unit consisting of just an infantry element and a coast guard. For all intents and purposes, they function way more like a gendarmerie or a specialized police unit than a traditional army. St. Kitts and Nevis is actually a member of the Regional Security System, or RSS. This is a defense and security agreement between several small island nations in the Eastern Caribbean. It's a collective security arrangement, a one-for-all, and all-for-one kind of deal for these small nations. Alright, the runner-up for the weakest army in the world, coming in at number 2, is the Caribbean island of Dominica. Not to be confused with the Dominican Republic, Dominica is known as the Nature Isle of the Caribbean, but when it comes to military force, they made a really decisive choice decades ago. Dominica has absolutely no standing army. Zero. However, in 1981, the army was officially disbanded. This happened after the military was implicated in 2 attempted coups d'état, so they got rid of it entirely and folded its responsibilities into the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force. Today, all internal and national security is handled by the police force, which includes a small special service unit and a coast guard. The decision to disband the military was a bold political statement, prioritizing democratic stability over military tradition. And here we are! The number 1 spot on our countdown goes to the Caribbean island of Grenada. Known as the Isle of Spice for its production of nutmeg and mace, Grenada is a stunningly beautiful country with a rich and sometimes turbulent history. The reason it's at the top of our list is because it has no regular military, but the story of how it got to this point is absolutely wild and involves one of the most powerful countries on Earth. Grenada once had a military called the People's Revolutionary Army. However, in 1983, a violent internal power struggle led to instability and the execution of the Prime Minister. Citing concerns for American medical students and fear of a Soviet-Cuban puppet state, the United States launched an invasion called Operation Urgent Fury. In just a matter of days, U.S. and Caribbean forces defeated the Grenadian military. After the invasion, Grenada's army was completely dissolved. It has never been reformed. All security responsibilities were transferred to the Royal Grenada Police Force, which maintains a special service unit and coast guard. The 1983 invasion completely reshaped the country's approach to defense. It is the ultimate example of zero military power, making it number 1 on our list. And that is a wrap. From the tiny atolls of Tuvalu to the Spice Island of Grenada, we've just counted down the 10 weakest armies in the world. It is absolutely fascinating to see how these countries have chosen diplomacy, regional alliances, and even just friendship over building a traditional military. This was honestly one of the most interesting videos we've ever made, and I hope you guys learned as much as I did. I have to know what you guys think. Which country on this list surprised you the most? Was it Vatican City with its historic Swiss Guard? Or maybe Liechtenstein, which just decided to abolish its army over 150 years ago? For me, the story of Grenada was absolutely mind-blowing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm going to be reading through and replying to as many of you as I can. If you had fun and learned something new, do me a huge favor and smash that like button until it turns blue. And of course, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We'll see you in the next video.